And we're going to move into Messianic Judaism now. So it all comes from the understanding. And again, do they believe in Jesus? Of course. That's in their name. They believe in Jesus. But in many cases, they will not pronounce the name of Jesus because for some will say that it's not his name. It was because, again, it gets into extremes. There's varyings, there's spectrums of Messianic Judaism. But if you look at the Messianic congregations throughout the United States, you say, and people have explained, like, no, it's harmless because it's just Jews becoming Christians. Well, it's not the case. If you go to Messianic congregations, it's up to between 50 and 80% of Gentiles becoming Jews. Now, of course, they're not ethnically Jews, but what they have become is, in their mind, they have become religiously Jews or ecclesiastically Jews or, Pharisaically Jews, if you want to go there. But the fact is that what they're saying is that we have the background, and it's usually non-Jews that are doing this, but the fact is they come and they're fascinated with the culture. And again, this is good. This stuff is good to understand the symbolism of the Old Covenant, of the Torah. And maybe if that was just okay, if that would be okay just to take a look at the symbolism and say, yes, the symbolism is good. Symbolism, of course, because the lamb shank on the Passover can have broken bones, and Jesus had no broken bones. That's fascinating. Absolutely. He's the fulfillment. And you look at some of the things you say. You walk into the sanctuary, if you could. It was for the priests and the high priests. You walk into the sanctuary, there's a door, and you say, Jesus said, I was that door. You walk into the sanctuary, into the holy place. You look to the south wall, and there's a candelabra, or what do we call it? Like you celebrate Hanukkah. It's a candlestick. And it says very clearly throughout, we know that Jesus says in John chapter 8, I am the light of the world. So he declared himself to be that light. You go over to the north wall, and he says, I am the bread of life. It's stacks of bread, all fulfilling Christ. In front of you is an altar of incense, a golden altar. And Jesus says that's the prayers of the saints. Now, those prayers are supposed to go through the separating veil that separated the holy from the most holy and go to the Father, into the presence of the Father, into the most holy. But they had to go through the veil. And Jesus says, even the veil, that's me. Hebrews 10:20, and said, go into the most holy place, which only the high priest could go one day a year for the Day of Atonement for a 2-goat ceremony. You go in, and there it is. There's the altar. There is the mercy seat. And Jesus says, that's me. I'm that covering. Romans chapter 3:25. I'm the hilasterion. So he's everything. So noticing those things are good. And there's people like Mormons and people like Seventh-day Adventists that have noticed those things and done very well to point them out. But in many cases, they have rejected the complete fulfillment of Christ in all those things. They still do those things. And that's the problem that I would have personally for Messianic Judaism and Torah keepers and Hebrew roots and 119 ministries, all these people, First Fruits of Zion, because the very fact is that they hold on to, and Christ has to have this honor. He has to have the honor given to him, allowed to him, afforded him to be the complete fulfillment. And he says this in Luke chapter 24, verse 27. He says, all that stuff from the old covenant, that spoke of me. Now, verse 44, he says, and I fulfilled it all. He says it in Matthew chapter 5, 17 through 19. That yes, it's not juxtaposing the law with the end of the world. It's juxtaposing the law with my fulfillment. So he said that earth would sooner pass away than me to do anything to destroy this law. It is going to be in place till I fulfill it. There is no doubt. But Messianic Judaism loves to just forget about the fulfillment part. And they'll say, oh, no, that just means that he did it right. He made it clear. Oh, really? That was there a prophecy of Christ fulfilling the cross in Psalm 22? Well, it's empty. Did he fulfill the manger in Bethlehem Ephratah in Micah chapter 5? Yes, it's empty. Did he fulfill the tomb in Isaiah 53? It's empty. So fulfillment leaves the former empty and the forward full. Christ is full. So when he fulfilled the law, he fulfilled it and made it right. Yes, indeed, he did it perfectly, but he made it empty. Now we follow him. And that's a big issue with Messianic Judaism. Messianic Judaism holds on to the law where Christ clearly says that he fulfilled it. Now, if he fulfilled fulfilled it, you don't have to go back and do it as a means of reparation, atonement, or relationship. Your relationship is with Christ, and God had that law in place so that you could identify with God, and the atonement was already done when we see it on the cross. But people will hold on to the law and say, we don't do the animal sacrifices, but we're going to do everything else. We're going to do the Passover, we're going to do the meal, and we're going to do the Seder, we're going to do everything that involves, we're going to do, the Feast of Tabernacles, we're going to do all those things because Christ clearly in their minds did not fulfill them. And someone's going to get on and say, yes, he fulfilled them. Then you don't have to do them. And if you're just doing them for symbolism, great. That's fine. But the problem is what Messianic Judaism slips into is requirement, that you're required to keep the law. And here's a couple other things. And again, clearly we know you don't have to keep the law of Moses because there was right and wrong prior to the giving of the law. And what Messianic Judaism says, no. The law was in place prior to the creation of man. So when God created, it was in place. And they quote things, as I mentioned in my video, like the Midrash, which is rabbi opinion that says, God looked into the Torah and he created. Well, no, that's just opinion. It was not. The Torah was a law, and it was a law in place for Moses to give to the people. And that's very, very clear. It was a covenant with Israel and Israel alone. So when he gave that to him, he says it would have a beginning, it would have a middle, and it would have an end. And it would end when Christ came. It had a beginning, 430 years after Abraham. It had a reason why it was in place, and that's from Galatians chapter 3:19. And when it would end, Galatians 3:25 through 23 through 25. It would end when Christ came. So that's over. So then we don't go back. But yes, when people say, we're not going to give Christ the honor of let him be the fulfillment. If you're keeping the Sabbath, you're saying, no, he's not my rest. If you're keeping the Passover, you're saying, no, he's not my Passover. And again, I'm talking about people who say in the Messianic Judaism, they say that it's required. Again, this is considering Hebrew roots, 119 ministries, First Fruits of Zion, Messianic Judaism. And again, that is the tip of the spear. That's the one that says, this is what you must do. And again, they'll say, in many cases, we don't call ourselves Christian. Now, some do. Don't get me wrong. Some do. They'll say, listen, we don't call ourselves Christian because it's not Hebrew. And some will even say it's pagan.